Silence. In our world, it feels almost impossible. The noise never stops: phones buzzing, televisions blaring, opinions shouted from every corner. Everyone is quick to speak, quick to argue, quick to fill the air with words. But the Stoics saw something most people miss: silence itself can be power. Marcus Aurelius once reminded himself not to waste breath on what did not matter. He ruled an empire, yet he chose his words carefully, often letting silence carry more weight than speech. Why? Because he understood that silence is not emptiness, it is presence. I remember a man I once knew, calm, steady, always quiet in meetings. Others rushed to speak, to prove themselves, to fill every gap with noise. But when he finally did say something, the room leaned in. People listened, not because his words were louder, but because they were rare. His silence gave his speech weight. Now think about your own life. How many times have you said something too quickly only to wish you had stayed silent? How often has silence protected you from regret? If you've ever felt the relief of holding back words, type yes in the comments. You'll be surprised how many others nod along with you. The Stoics understood that silence is a shield. Seneca warned that speech is the mirror of the soul. If that's true, then silence is the lock that keeps others from misusing what they see. In silence, you protect your dignity. You guard your energy. You keep your enemies guessing. Let me share a story. A colleague of mine, a gentleman in his late 50s, once faced harsh criticism in public. The room expected him to lash back. Instead, he simply smiled, gave a slight nod, and said nothing. That silence, heavy and deliberate, shifted the power in the room. His critic looked smaller with each second. Later, he told me I realized I didn't need to defend myself. My actions already spoke louder than words. That's the art of silence, letting your life do the talking. Here's a question for you. In what situation of your life right now would silence be stronger than words? Write it below. Maybe it's an argument at home. Maybe it's gossip at work. Maybe it's online debates that only waste your peace. By naming it, you give yourself a chance to practice. And if this thought stirs something in you, press the like button. It's a small gesture, but it shows you value wisdom over noise. And subscribe if you haven't, because here we practice the kind of strength the world overlooks, the quiet kind. Silence is not weakness. It is not surrender. It is discipline. It's the ability to resist the urge to prove yourself in every moment. Marcus Aurelius said, "The best answer to anger is silence." He knew that silence robs your opponent of fuel. Without your reaction, their fire dies. Imagine a world where you respond less and live more. Imagine how much calmer your days would be if you spoke only when it mattered. This is the art of silence, and it is yours to practice. When we think of strength, we imagine raised voices, firm arguments, bold declarations. But the Stoics would smile at that picture. To them, real strength was the ability to stay still, to hold back, to master the urge to react. Silence was the higher form of courage. Epictetus used to tell his students, "First learn the meaning of what you say and then speak." He was reminding them that silence is not just about holding your tongue. It is about giving your words value by not wasting them. The less you speak, the more carefully people listen. I once sat with a couple in their 60s who had been married for over 40 years. They laughed when I asked them about their secret. The wife said, "We learned early that not every thought needs to be spoken." She explained that silence in marriage is not coldness, but wisdom, the ability to let small annoyances pass without turning them into battles. "If I answered every irritation, we'd have no peace," she smiled. Her silence was not emptiness. It was love. Think about that in your own relationships. How often do arguments begin not because of great betrayals, but because of small, needless words? How many could have been avoided by silence? If you've ever saved a relationship by holding back, write it in the comments. Your story might give someone else the courage to pause next time. There's also a quiet dignity that comes with silence. A man I knew, a grandfather who worked as a bus driver, told me something beautiful. When passengers cursed at me, I stayed quiet. Not because I was weak, but because I knew my silence meant I still owned myself. He understood what Marcus Aurelius wrote centuries ago. Choose not to be harmed and you won't feel harmed. Don't feel harmed, and you haven't been. Silence was his shield. And here's the paradox. The more you practice silence, the stronger your voice becomes. Because when you finally speak, people lean in. They know you don't waste words. That's why leaders who speak less often carry more authority. The silence before their words builds weight. I'll ask you, do people in your life lean in when you speak, or do your words blend into the noise? What would happen if you spoke less but with more intent? Reflect on that and let me know below. If this message resonates, take a moment to like this video. It's not just support for me, it's a way of saying you value depth over noise, wisdom over chatter. And if you haven't yet subscribed, join us. We're building a community of people who practice calm in a noisy world. Silence also deepens your relationship with yourself. When you're silent, the chatter of the world fades, and you finally hear your own thoughts. That's why Marcus Aurelius, even as emperor, carved out time each day for silence and reflection. It wasn't retreat, it was renewal. I once met a woman in her 70s who told me she practiced 10 minutes of silence every morning. It's not meditation, she said. It's just sitting without the television, without the phone, without conversation. In that quiet, I remember who I am. Her face carried a calm many people spend their lives chasing. What about you? When was the last time you allowed yourself true silence? Not just the absence of sound, but the absence of distraction. Try it this week, even for 5 minutes. And when you do come back and share what you experienced, silence is not empty. It is full. It is space for reflection, for patience, for strength. When we practice silence, we don't lose our voice, we discover it. There is a kind of silence that feels empty, like loneliness. But there is another kind that feels strong, like a mountain standing still while storms rage around it. That is the silence the Stoics practiced, not absence, but presence. Not weakness, but mastery. Seneca once said, "It is a great thing to know the season for speech and the season for silence. Wisdom is not in talking endlessly, but in knowing when words add value and when they only stir the waters." Many of us make the mistake of thinking our words prove our worth. But the truth is often the opposite. The less you say, the more valuable your words become. I remember an old mentor of mine, a man who rarely spoke in meetings. Younger colleagues rushed to fill every pause, eager to show their knowledge. He would listen quietly, eyes steady, and when the noise finally died down, he would offer one sentence, calm, clear, undeniable. The room would fall silent again, this time not because of noise, but because of respect. He once told me, "If you want your words to matter, make them rare." That lesson has never left me. Think about your own life. How often do you speak just to fill silence? How often do you feel the urge to prove yourself with words when silence would have spoken louder? What would change if you spoke less, but with more care? Write your thoughts in the comments. Your reflection might awaken something in someone else. Marcus Aurelius lived in a palace surrounded by flatterers, gossips, and schemers. He could have drowned in noise. Instead, he turned inward. His most powerful words were not spoken to crowds, but whispered to himself in his journal. Imagine that the emperor of Rome, writing not for fame, but for clarity, not to be heard, but to be true. His silence gave birth to wisdom that still guides us 2,000 years later. Silence also has the power to heal. I once visited a hospice where nurses told me that sometimes the most comforting thing for a dying patient was not words, but presence. Just sitting silently at their side holding a hand was worth more than 1,000 speeches. One nurse said, "People don't always remember what you said, but they feel how you were with them." That's Stoicism in practice, calm presence over noisy promises. Have you ever been comforted more by someone's silent presence than by their words? Share it. These stories remind us that silence is not absence, it is connection. And if this truth resonates with you, press the like button now. It tells me these reminders matter. More importantly, it helps spread Stoic wisdom to others who are lost in the noise and need silence. And subscribe so each week you're reminded to return to what is steady and real. There is another kind of silence we often forget: silence in response to insult. Marcus wrote, "The best revenge is not to be like your enemy. When someone slanders you, mocks you, or questions your worth, the urge to answer is strong. But often the most powerful answer is none. Your silence says your words do not touch my character. I remain myself." I knew a woman in her 70s who practiced this beautifully. A neighbor spread lies about her out of jealousy. Instead of fighting, she remained silent. Months later, the truth revealed itself, and the gossip faded. If I had answered, she told me, I would have joined their game. My silence kept me free. That is the art of silence, refusing to let others dictate your peace. So let me ask you, what insult or criticism in your life could you simply stop answering? Imagine the relief of not carrying that burden anymore. Share your answer below. It may help someone else lay down theirs. Silence, when practiced, becomes a kind of inner fortress. It gives you space to think, to choose, to remain calm in a frantic world. It is not the silence of defeat, but the silence of strength, the silence of a warrior who does not waste energy on battles unworthy of him. And here is the challenge I leave you with this week: practice silence in one moment where you would normally speak. Maybe it's an argument at home, maybe it's a comment online, maybe it's gossip among friends. Instead of joining in, hold your tongue. See how the moment shifts. See how powerful silence can be. Then return and share your story in the comments. This community grows stronger when we learn from each other's practice. If you believe the world needs more of this quiet strength, then support this mission, like this video, subscribe if you haven't, and share it with someone who struggles with noise and conflict. Give them the gift of silence. Remember, these words are cheap, but silence is priceless. The world is loud. You do not need to be. True power is not always in speaking. Sometimes it is in saying nothing at all.